What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today, we're going to cover a few stories from weddings, from crazy mother-in-laws, family drama, to bridezillas. These are all good stories to listen to while you're studying, sleeping, doing the laundry, or while you're driving the car. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, let's go. Here's the first story. A friend of mine is planning the Fyre festival of weddings and told me that spending hours telling me the details is her way of including me instead of inviting me. A friend of mine is planning the Fyre festival of weddings, and I just need to have a vent. It started with them deciding to have it on Christmas Eve in her hometown. The reasoning for this is that they have a pre-planned trip there for Christmas with her family, and they can't afford another one. Never mind that none of the groom's family or friends are there. Most of them have said this is going to be dreadfully expensive and difficult for them because Christmas, and 30% of their guests are from interstate. They're inviting 80 to 100 people. Then I find out that she's costed the wedding at $13K, but they only have a budget of $7K AUD, $5K USD, if they can even save that much. When I asked how they intended to pay for things, she said as we go, and that she'd organize payment plans so she can pay things off afterward. So they intend to find vendors, then save up for deposits for them, then book them, then hope they can pay off the rest in time or get a subsequent payment plan. She wants to put their limited budget entirely into the ceremony. She's allocating thousands to venue, outfits, photographer, decorations. The groom wants a reception, however, so if they have any sort of slightly formal one, they intend guests to pay for their food and drinks, not just alcohol, but soft drinks as well. Alternatively, they're going to ask people to stop into a grocery store and pick up a few things to bring to the ceremony for afterward. So fight the Christmas crowds and then leave food sitting for hours in a hot and dry city in summer. They also want people to BYO chairs. Another possible reception option is to defer it to Boxing Day and invite everyone to her cousin's house for leftovers. She has not asked her cousin about this, but assumes it will be okay because her cousin has an open-door policy for friends on Boxing Day. Tell me you've never done Christmas without telling me you've never done Christmas. All the invited guests can just go without or fend for themselves on Christmas Day in anticipation of some leftover potato salad at the house of someone they don't know. This includes the groom's family. To compensate for not having a reception or much of one, she is going to have a 2-hour ceremony with 20 people doing readings, etc. I say she because none of the groom's people are included in this. He gets a best man to stand up with him, and that's it. She's using ChatGPT to write her vows, and she is going to do the groom's vows for him so he gets them right. She told me that right in front of him when we were all having coffee. To keep costs down, the decor will be all DIY. However, they are not arriving in the city until the afternoon before the wedding, so everyone else is going to be allocated things to do, such as collecting things, storing things, making the arch, making the other arrangements, and making the bouquets. They will coordinate from where they are. On the day, others will be allocated setup tasks while they get ready. They will not even have seen the venue until they get there for their wedding. According to her, asking people to do this is a way of including them in her wedding. I found this interesting perspective when she informed me that the reason she had been waffling all this nonsense to me for hours and hours for the last couple of months and having me help her figure things out is because she's including me in the planning part of that. This means I don't get an invite because I get to have all my fun and inclusion that way. The friend she's asked to host her hen's night or bridal shower also doesn't get an invite because she gets to have her fun planning and running and paying for that event. That friend doesn't know this yet. After carefully trying to suggest alternatives and highlight issues at various points, I finally expressed to her my concerns that this was not going to work and she was asking too much of people. She got incredibly upset with me and told me I was being unsupportive. When I suggested they take a minute and consider everything, she told me that things have been booked and people invited and it's full steam ahead and I could get on board or get off. I decided to get off. Additional details. People have asked for the other details, so I thought it might be easier if I just put them here. At one point, she looked at having the ceremony in a burlesque bar with burlesque dancers as entertainment during it. This would be in front of 95-year-old Nana, conservative family members, and kids. She eventually conceded that was inappropriate. She wanted/wants to turn up on a Vespa in a huge ball gown I can barely lift. She put together a planning permit application in case she wanted to have the wedding in a park. She has asked them to close off roads so her guests can have parking. I tried to explain this was not what that was for, but she's adamant. The application is still not approved. She is going to give an itinerary for anyone who's stuck there on Christmas Day so they have things to do. She's not actually going to spend Christmas with them or invite them to anything. She's planning to purchase a whole lot of crockery and cups, etc. from Shein. She intends to give these to a couple of local family members afterward as a gift for their help during the wedding, because they do a lot of entertaining. I call this offloading junk onto people. Wow, I cannot believe this is real. She's a bit out of reality. 2-hour ceremony on Christmas Eve without a place to sit, and you need to bring your own foods and drinks? Hope the parents of the bride talk some sense into her. Story 2. I hate my BFF's husband and in-laws. So I just attended my BFF's wedding, and my lord, I never liked her fiancé, but this experience made me absolutely loathe him and his family. She deserves so much better. Take a seat, because this is a wild ride. So my BFF, 25, female, invited me to her wedding that just happened in January. She asked me to be one of her bridesmaids in September of last year, and I was ecstatic. I had moved away to another city and was so happy to be included. From the beginning, she has told me that she planned on her wedding to be Disney-themed, since both her and her now husband love anything Disney-related. I wanted to be of the most help I could, even from across the states, so I sent her over a few dozen of Disney poster collection as my gift to her to use in any way she wanted for the decor, as she planned on DIYing a lot of the wedding. And during that same month she asked me to be her bridesmaid, she set up a group chat with the rest of the bridesmaids. In this chat, she specified that each of us would be representing a character so that we could match the groomsmen's that we would be walking with. She sent us links to the hairpieces she wanted us to wear along with our designated dress, and she let us know that she had sent the same type of links for the groomsmen to have their hidden Disney shirt with matching accessories as well. 5 months prior to the wedding. Keep that in mind. I ordered everything, and once the wedding came near, I traveled down to where she was to be of any help. This is where the drama came in. First major issue, when I got there, no one was helping her do anything, not even her fiancé. She was heavily pregnant and has a 6-year-old. She had so many things she needed to do, and I rushed to do my best to help. I helped her make everything, and I mean everything. I was staying in her house until 1 or 2 a.m. with her every day, rushing to finish all the DIY. Second issue, on one of those nights of intense stress, her husband decided to have a party and invite one of the bridesmaids, which is his sister, and her husband over. My friend was happy to see her and asked if she could help. This girl flat out said no and went to party with the group that came over, as well as making snide comments about her not taking care of her son, even though she could see we were working and her brother was clearly just talking to the other friends. Third issue, on the day of the wedding, my BFF discovers that her SIL husband as well as her FIL did not get the designated Disney shirts or accessories. When my BFF confronted her SIL as to why her husband didn't have the things he needed 4 hours before the wedding, this girl literally looked my friend in the eye and said, "That's not my problem. I'm dead-ass serious." Fourth issue, my friend dropped a pretty penny on this venue and paid extra for a bridal suite for the bridesmaids to get ready in. The SIL refused to come because, in her words, she would rather get ready with her mom. Fifth issue, once the SIL arrived, she started making snide comments about my friend's wedding dress, such as, "That's not how my dress looked. It's a bit flashy, don't you think? I think it's a tad inappropriate."
Sixth issue, after the ceremony and come the reception, I find out from my fiancé that the grandfather-in-law was going around demanding who people were and why they were there when he didn't recognize someone, and was extremely rude to people when they informed him that they were not direct family. Seventh issue, during the buffet, serve yourself buffet, I saw the father-in-law go up to a venue worker who was only there to replenish the food, hand her a plate and say, "Serve me," and step back to watch her because he couldn't be bothered to be in line and do it himself. All of this was informed to the husband. The husband was aware of his sister's behavior, which I feel was incredibly disgusting and so obviously just jealousy on her part, and didn't defend my friend at all. Every time we told him about what happened, he would just shrug and say, "That's how they are." I honestly hope my friend the best, but I don't think the marriage will last long. Edit. So, it would take forever to answer comments, so I'll add some details in case the rest are confused. The accessories I mentioned for the men were literally just socks and a bow tie in the color of the character. Her wedding was not expensive in regards to what she asked for people to buy for the theme. My dress that she chose was $60 and the hairpin was $10, and everything she chose was on Amazon, so it was readily available to buy. It was this fact that is what was heartbreaking for my friend, as she sent everyone the links to these items 5 months prior to the wedding. In regards to the SIL husband, I think a few are assuming she only went to the SIL because she should be in charge of her husband, which is quite the assumption, and not why. She found out about her FIL and BIL not having their clothes a few hours before the wedding, due to her husband calling her while we were getting ready with the bridesmaids at the nail salon to inform her as, apparently, the FIL had called and said that he had forgotten, and that the BIL apparently didn't know about needing the items to begin with. The FIL, in my opinion, just couldn't give two craps and just didn't want to participate. The BIL, again, in my opinion, either just forgot and was now lying that he never knew, because as I had stated before, everyone was in a group chat and had been sent the links to what they needed. The reason why my friend went to the SIL was because she was at the salon, and I really don't see the issue of asking the wife how their husband could say they never knew. I honestly don't think that means that saying they're responsible for them, but wouldn't anyone else want to ask just to know how they could explain that discrepancy in the moment? And a final explanation. For the DIY no-help issue, I had asked my friend why it was so late that she was doing everything while we were doing everything. And she had explained that she still works full-time and takes care of her children. She had not expected for her husband to not help, and unfortunately, trying to wrangle everything like the caterers, venue, cake, and etc., her plans to DIY were put on the back burner. When the party came to the house that one day with the SIL, she was not even aware they were coming, and the first person that walked into the house was the SIL. My friend had already asked all her friends and family to help, but everyone had said no, so she thought the SIL had changed her mind and had come to help. When she said no, and then the rest of the party came in, that's when my friend got upset, because one, she couldn't believe the husband had said no, but instead was inviting people to have a party, and two, the fact that later on the SIL made comments on how my BFF should be taking care of the baby so they could party, when she clearly saw we were working. Bride is lucky to have a good friend.
Story 3. Friend removed from the bridal party due to pregnancy. I have a friend who has been seemingly waiting her entire life to have a wedding just to be in control of things. She literally sent out invitations telling her guests about her expectations on how they act at her wedding. She asked me, gay man, to be in the bridal party, and I said yes initially, very excited to share this important moment with her. I went dress shopping with her and was extremely supportive throughout the entire process. She planned her bachelorette to New Orleans, which I was initially so stoked over, despite it going to run up a hefty bill while I'm trying to save for nursing school. I committed to going under the pretenses that I would be sharing a room with one of our mutual friends. We'll call her Gina. Everyone else in the bridal party belonged to a new friend group she has through her soon-to-be husband. They're all married to the groomsmen, who were also supposed to be going to New Orleans as a joint bachelor-bachelorette party. Other than her sister, me and my Gina were the odd ones out, the only ones going without significant others, and the only ones not in this new friend group of the brides. I literally did not know any of the groomsmen or any of the bridal party besides Gina and the bride's sister.
Kind of. Fast forward. Gina asked me and the bride to go out to dinner one night. I couldn't make it because I worked, but asking us to go out to dinner was just because Gina wanted to tell us that she was pregnant with her borderline abusive boyfriend's baby. She's been dating this guy for nearly 10 years, since before I ever even knew her. So I take their relationship with a grain of salt because she is in the driver's seat of her own relationship and chooses to stay there. She makes the money, pays the rent, pays all the other bills, and her boyfriend basically doesn't work and cheats on her. He doesn't ever even do the bare minimum in literally any situation. He's just a total freeloader who walks all over Gina. But all you can do to a friend seemingly stuck in that awful relationship is be there for her. Otherwise, why be friends with her at all? Anyways, once the bride in question found out that Gina was pregnant, she disinvited her from the bridal party entirely. The bride never told me this. She just disinvited her on the sly. I found out when I saw she got removed from the bridal party group chat. So I called the bride to ask her why Gina wasn't involved anymore, and she phrased it like she didn't want her to stress about the wedding while being pregnant, even though she pretty clearly conveyed to me in other means that she was just pissed off that she got pregnant. And she told me Gina was nearly in tears on the phone as the bride disinvited her from the bridal party. The bride is extremely bitter towards all of her friends having children. She claims to not want them for herself, but gets so frustrated when she gets sidelined by friends because they start families. It is honestly childish behavior, and it's serial at this point. She's always making comments about her friends essentially biting the dust after having children. So when she disinvited Gina, I was left without a roommate for New Orleans, or so I thought. It turns out that the bride impromptu made an addition to the bridal party last minute and threw her in my room for New Orleans. I had never met this girl. She didn't know me, gay male, and was expected to share a room with me? The idea was never even ran past me. It all happened in the blink of an eye. I was honestly annoyed. The New Orleans trip just became a burden. Now I knew nobody going besides the bride and her sister. Kind of. And I was forced to share a room with a total stranger whom I never met before, when everyone else was rooming with significant others. She broke this news to me over the phone after I asked her, and I just kind of froze. This was no longer the New Orleans trip I'd co-signed on, and her blatant disregard for me in this decision-making process baffled me. So I took time to process and eventually let her know that I could no longer make it to New Orleans. I blamed it on financials to avoid friction and attempt to salvage our friendship, but that wasn't good enough for her. She was pissed. She asked me if I even wanted to be in the bridal party, and I was honestly so caught off guard by the question and knew she was insinuating that there was no place for me in it anymore. So I said, guess not. And she told me I can come to the wedding as a guest. A couple of weeks ago, she texted me disinviting me from the wedding entirely. We have been friends for 10 years. She ended our relationship entirely over her stupid-ass wedding that she waited her entire life for, and not for a magical moment, but rather to exert dictator-like power over a situation. I'm considering the bullet dodged at this point and the money saved. I have yet to experience a wedding I even remotely enjoy. They all end up being god-tier level drama with hefty price tags tied to them. Bridezilla sounds like an affable friend, but you're better off without her. I hope Gina gets a healthy baby.
Story 4. I want to throw my whole wedding away. I am 20 female and my fiancé 22 male. Our wedding is in 5 months. I want to cancel the whole thing and just elope. My dad was in prison for 6 years and just got out this past May. I have been in contact with him since September. He went to prison for assaulting my mom after she decided to divorce him. He was abusive my whole life. I have been with my fiancé for 4 years, and 2 of those years I have lived with him in his family home. The other 2 we moved out and got our own place. I know I was very young. Therefore, I clung to my fiancé's mom. She healed me in a motherly way when my mom just couldn't at the time. 6 months ago, it came out that my father-in-law has been cheating on my mother-in-law with her sister for pretty much their entire marriage. Absolutely horrible. These past 6 months, I have pretty much been her listener and her only friend, which was okay with me. I wanted to be there for her like she was there for me, even if that meant just listening to her feelings. I felt horrible for her. I still can't believe that any of this has happened to my fiancé's family. Since my dad got out, I, to sum up words, was afraid to be alone with him because of the crime he committed and abandoning me and my brother at his apartment to commit those crimes. He lost any right to speak to us until we turned 18. So those entire 6 years of prison, I didn't talk to him till his last year, which was very little.
I wanted my fiancé to be with me to meet him in person again, and my mother-in-law offered to be there too. Little did I know that was the worst mistake of my life. After meeting my dad, they pretty much had everything in common as far as books, spirituality, movies, hobbies. The list goes on. I thought it was awesome that they could relate to certain things, and it definitely gave me things to talk about, considering I didn't really know my dad anymore. They both immediately after meeting each other came to me separately to express how they found each other very attractive. Of course, I felt uncomfortable, but I didn't try to read into it. I don't know, SMH. After meeting twice, one to eat lunch and second time to go hiking, this time with just us three and not my fiancé. He had to work. They completely forgot I existed the whole time. I thought it was weird, of course, but tried not to look into it. Now a month or two have passed, and they have each other on Instagram. He gave her a book for her birthday and left little notes in it for her. Okay, whatever. Weird, but whatever. Maybe he's just being nice. She tells me a couple weeks later that she had a dream about making out with my dad in his house with him. I guess I just didn't want to acknowledge that they felt this way. I thought because of how devastated she was over her husband that all of it was harmless. Now, present time. I haven't heard much from my dad because I haven't really tried. Subconsciously, I was mad at him. I acted like I wasn't, and I didn't really care that he wasn't reaching out. I didn't want to face my feelings on how much they both have bothered me. She calls me one day when she gets off work to tell me that my dad has invited her to come to his work and watch live music, and that she wants me and my fiancé to go with her. I don't respond with interest, and I think because of that she offered for my fiancé's brother and his girlfriend to come too. We could make it a family thing, when it wasn't a family thing. It was her trying to see my dad and make it not weird. I push it off again. I know, stupid. I have an issue with addressing my feelings. I did express how it bothers me that I hadn't heard from him, but he was talking to her. She had no response to that at all. However, my fiancé expressed complete distaste with this whole idea and told her absolutely not, anyone but my dad. He even saw the intentions. 2 days ago, she calls me again, this time to ask if I had heard from my dad. I said no, have you? She said he has invited her to go to a concert with him, but she denied because all she could hear was her son saying absolutely not. This took the whole day for me to really swallow my feelings. I didn't tell my fiancé at first, but then I did. It really bothered me. This time he was pissed because she knew that I was hurt that he was talking to her and not me. And this time she knew that he didn't like this type of friendship her and my dad were starting to form. She sees no harm in her inappropriate behavior. I've tried to show so much empathy towards her, and I hate to say it, but I do not feel sorry for her anymore. I feel betrayed, and I don't feel like she had me or her son in her best interest in this matter. I am so upset that I want to just undo this whole wedding plan and run away with my fiancé. I'm embarrassed of my dad, I'm hurt by my mother-in-law, and I sadly don't think I will ever forgive her. Wow, no words. It's better if she cancels the wedding.
Story 5. My Mother, the Momzilla of epic proportions. My fiancé and I got engaged December 2024, planning an October 2026 wedding, and have had awful luck with venues. We finally found our venue in September, but we're cutting it close on affording our end of the venue, catering included, with both of us working. Then, in January, we both lost our jobs within 2 weeks of each other. So, sadly, we were forced to cancel our venue. My mother offered us $10,000 for the wedding and paid the deposit on the venue, which cost her to lose most of it. We were distraught about the situation, but my mother kept insisting this decision was our choice, not forced on us. Despite the lack of empathy, she helped us with a new venue for a much smaller wedding and was angry about not being able to invite her 16 friends. My fiancé did not want them there from the start, and because she's pissed about the smaller venue, is now saying she's not bringing my grandmother to the wedding and she doesn't want to throw me a bridal shower. At every step involving my mother has been a nightmare, and even ruined my dress shopping experience because my bridesmaids were there and she expected me to only include her.
Despite her being extremely rude to everyone that day and guilting me about including my bridesmaids was still the best part of wedding planning. The latest blow-up was when we told her we booked a caterer and her accommodations the weekend of the wedding. She went nuclear when we told her she wasn't going to be staying at the Airbnb our wedding party booked, saying that we aren't including her in the wedding. We needed the wedding party to help set up the reception, which she was already included when planning, and made that detail clear when changing the venue. She's now not interested in assisting with planning and threatening not to come to the wedding. Some background is my parents are divorced and my dad is in very bad health, so he's unable to come. And majority of my family is my mother's side, who she's now telling not to come to my wedding. Now, it's looking like the only family I'll have there is my brother and sister-in-law, and it's extremely upsetting to think my mother would go this far because she didn't get what she wanted. From the start, she's had this idea of her place in the wedding, and that the mother of the bride is a high position, and at every step she's felt entitled to having more control and argued every decision we've made. My mother and I were not close growing up and had more of an authoritarian presence in my life, which she's now proving to still be true despite being almost 40. Now that I'm getting married, she wants to rush in and act like we've always been close when it's been the total opposite, and has made very little effort to spend time with us as a couple. All of a sudden, she's interested in spending time with us only to discuss wedding plans, and the $10K in help she offered came with unknown contingencies. Now that she's threatening not to come along with telling family the same, I'm deeply hurt, but also a little relieved. My fiancé and I just want our wedding to be a joyful experience for all, and the relief of her not being there to potentially ruin it is sadly not a concern anymore. I feel terrible for feeling this way about my mother, but I don't know what else to do at this point.
Story 6. I don't want to be in my friend's wedding anymore. I'm in the bridal party for a wedding I honestly do not want to attend at this point. The entire planning process has been a complete mess. When my friend first announced her engagement last year, I really tried to help her get organized because I know planning is not her strong suit. We even met for lunches with her mother-in-law, who was paying for the wedding, to try to get things moving. Unfortunately, those meetings went nowhere, and nothing ever actually got accomplished. For months, I kept asking her to start a group chat with the bridesmaids so we could all be in the loop and help plan things together. My thinking was that if we coordinated as a group, it would take pressure off of her. Instead, I got a text at 2 in the morning on Valentine's Day asking if it would be okay to start a group chat. At that point, I just thought, why are you asking permission? Just make the chat and move forward. Now we are 1 week away from the wedding, and only 4 out of the 10 bridesmaids even have their dresses. The dress information was only sent out at the end of February, or at least that is when some of us heard about it. I also just received a text this weekend asking if we could donate money and attend a bachelorette party this Saturday and Sunday. It feels like new requests and decisions are still coming in constantly at the last minute. The schedule is also confusing. The rehearsal dinner is Friday evening, but the wedding is Sunday evening, with the reception not starting until 7. Normally, that would not be a big deal, but the wedding is about 3 hours away in the middle of nowhere with nothing planned in between those days. There are also unexpected expenses. We were originally told that hair and makeup would be covered because the bride wanted everyone to have the same hairstyle. Now we have to pay for it ourselves, which is apparently going to be about $400. I would not have minded contributing if we had known earlier, but it is frustrating to find out about another large cost at the last minute. The dresses are also extremely questionable. They are Barney purple, and the hairstyle is this side-swept Taylor Swift look from around 2011. The original dress idea was a short A-line tutu. I told her that looked more like something for a junior prom. Keep in mind that most of the women in the bridal party are over 37 and have kids. Her daughter is 21, and I'm the next youngest at 32 with an infant. Her response was that A-line looks good on everyone. I think she received a lot of pushback because the dress changed, but the new one somehow looks even worse.
On top of that, now I have to buy a backup dress just in case the original one does not arrive in time. At this point, it feels like I'm hemorrhaging money for someone else's event. This is not my wedding, my child, or my life event. To make things even more complicated, my husband and I will have to leave the reception early because he has meetings on Monday that he absolutely cannot miss. The whole situation just feels chaotic and exhausting. I'm not being dramatic on the chaos. She doesn't even have a cake.
Story 7. Unbridesmaided, a story. A saga of being unbridesmaided, making this a verb, and then unfriended. Background. I was part of a friend group composed of 4 girls, myself, 35 female, Helena, 33 female, Sophie, 31 female, and Frances, 33 female. We had been good friends for a couple of years. We all work in the same industry, would get together on a weekly basis, and shared lots of laughter and wine. I loved having this group of friends as it was drama-free and super supportive. Over Christmas 2022, I got engaged to my long-term boyfriend. Yay! Unfortunately, I had to keep the engagement a bit secretive, as our engagement also meant that I would have to move cities and change jobs. Since we were planning a long engagement and our wedding in summer 2024, I wanted to keep the news to myself until fall 2023. The industry in which I and these girlfriends work is tiny and very gossipy, and I didn't want the news to get back to my employer until I was ready. I also didn't want to ask my girlfriends to lie for me, so I decided just not to tell any of them for a couple of months. It sucked, as I wanted to share my good news, but I thought it was for the best. Fast forward to July 2023, and Helena gets us together one evening to announce her engagement to Ryan, 33M. We were so excited, so happy for her, and even more thrilled when she immediately asked us 3 to be her bridesmaids, along with 3 other of her childhood friends. We, of course, accepted, and within a day, I had created a bridesmaids chat to brainstorm how we could support her, etc. Personally, I was also feeling really bad, guilty about not having told them my engagement news and knew that I had to tell them as soon as possible. I finally got the chance in early September 2023. The girls were of course also very happy, although I could tell, and totally understood, that they, to varying degrees, were taken aback that I had waited 9 months to tell them. Helena was clearly the most miffed. She didn't say anything harsh, but her body language was off. I didn't ask them to be my bridesmaids as I have a big family and already had too many sisters and cousins to include any friends. Following my announcement, Helena became slowly more distant. It made sense. We were all busy, she was traveling a lot, etc., but I could feel that there was some tension. I invited her to get a drink one evening a few weeks later to hash it out. I invited her to share her feelings, and she just said that she had been taken aback and a little upset that I hadn't told them earlier, but that she understood. I apologized, explained my reasoning again, and then we moved on to discussing our weddings, which were both planned for summer 2024, more than 2 months apart, mine in early June, hers in late August. Helena then planned a bridesmaids weekend for all 6 of us in late October 2023 so that we could all meet each other. Frances, unfortunately, was traveling that weekend for a wedding and couldn't make it, and I had family arriving to visit on the Sunday, so had to leave a little early. But it was a great weekend, so much fun. I made sure not to talk about my wedding planning and keep the focus on Helena. Coming out of the weekend, the 3rd girl in our group, Sophie, was put into a group chat with 2 of the other bridesmaids. I thought that was strange, but she explained that she was representing the 3 of us for the early stages of planning so that the group didn't get too messy. Okay, weird. I tried not to read too much into it. Something to note here, Sophie actually started working at the same company as me during this whole thing, so from this point onward, she and I are working together every day, literally sharing a desk in a small office. We talked a lot. Over the next months, through the winter, I was growing more and more confused. Helena was still extremely distant, never having time to see us or me, and Sophie was sharing little tidbits from the bridesmaids group chat about planning the bachelorette, etc. In fact, I asked Sophie straight up numerous times if she thought I was no longer a bridesmaid. Every time she replied that she hadn't heard anything, that Helena hadn't said anything to her, etc. It was very confusing, but I tried to brush it off. Things finally came to a head at a party in March 2024. All four of us were there, and I finally had a chance to catch up with Helena. As we're talking, she said something to the effect of, "Oh, and the bridesmaids will stay on site at the wedding property." To which I replied, "Oh, great. Do you think there will be space for my husband as well?" She looks me dead in the eyes and says, "Oh, sorry, I thought you had understood. You're no longer a bridesmaid." In my head, I am thinking, how would I have understood? You haven't said anything. But out loud, I just say, "Oh, no, I wasn't aware. That's really too bad. But it's your wedding, and I'll just be so happy to be there and celebrate you guys." I really said this. Clearly, I have no spine. She then goes on to explain that since her fiancé only has 4 groomsmen, she wants to make numbers even and only have 4 bridesmaids, her 3 childhood friends and Sophie from our friend group. So that means Francis and I are out because, well, you're going to be so busy planning your wedding, and Francis is pregnant, she had just told us a month previously, so I'm sure she will be too busy as well.
I was shook. I almost cried. I felt like I had just been rejected from the cool girls table in the middle school lunchroom. It was awful. I left the party early and had a good cry in bed. The next day, I text Frances asking if she's heard anything. She's like, "Thank God you texted me. I learned the same thing last night, but from Sophie. She made an offhanded comment about the bridesmaids that made it very clear to me that I was not longer one. I don't understand. Literally a few weeks ago, Helena and I were discussing bridesmaids' colors. She hasn't said anything to me. This is so awful." Frances then texts Helena to confirm this, and Helena replies with the same flippant, "Oh, sorry, thought you knew." No apology, no real explanation. I was so upset, as I think you all can understand. I tried in vain to pin down Helena for lunch or dinner just so that we could discuss. I didn't even want to yell at her. I just wanted to understand what WTF had happened. After several cancellations, etc. on her part, I finally got her to have coffee with me. During this coffee, I apologized again about not telling her about my engagement earlier and asked if everything was all right between us. She once again confirmed that she was over any negative feelings she had about that and that us being unbridesmaided was just a logistical decision. She also apologized for not being more clear. I left that coffee feeling better and remembering how much I liked her as a friend, but still unsettled. As for Sophie, the next day at work, I pulled her aside and was frank with her. I told her that I knew she was a bridesmaid and not us, and that she had essentially been lying to me for months. I told her how embarrassed and upset that made me. She, of course, had all sorts of excuses, like it wasn't my news to share, etc., but it was all kind of BS. But we made nice, and she apologized, and we moved on. I decided that as a mature adult, I could choose to not let this whole thing upset me, distance myself from the negativity, and just try to focus on my own wedding and coming to peace with the situation. And I honestly thought that I was over it until Helena's wedding in August 2024. Mine had gone off without a hitch a few months previously. The 3 girls had come and all was lovely, etc. But sitting in the church for Helena's wedding, I started noticing a few things. She indeed had 4 bridesmaids, but also had a number of other girls, cousins, wives of the groomsmen, involved in the wedding in other ways. They were in the wedding procession, did readings, were ushers, etc. Frances and I were not involved at all. Her husband had 5 groomsmen, so her story about wanting to match numbers was absolute and total crap. Once we moved to dinner, which was seated, there came the final nail in the coffin for me. Frances and I were sat at a table at the ass back of the room, y'all. Not even the ass back of the main room. No, we were at the ass back of the tent that had been added for overflow. We may as well have been in Timbuktu for all that we were considered at this dinner. Normally, I don't care about wedding seating, but personally, if I was tragically forced to unbridesmaid 2 of my close friends, I would do everything in my power to make them feel loved and included on the day. Clearly, Helena either did not think about us at all, or more likely thought about us and then decided she didn't give a shit. Throughout the dinner, I just kept saying to myself, was I supposed to be a bridesmaid? It was surreal.
But in order to keep things civil, Francis and I smiled and chatted with everyone, tried to have a good time, and danced all night. The next day, I sent a thank you text to Helena, to which she replied politely, and since then, I have not heard a peep from her, helped/not helped by me now living several thousand miles away. Frankly, it was a very sad and disappointing end to a wonderful friendship. I'm mostly just so confused about what happened, why she became so distant. Was it my secret engagement? And why is a grown-ass woman incapable of opening her mouth and communicating? Thank you for sticking with this little rant. It was extremely cathartic to write. That was the last story, and what a story it was. OP is the bigger person here, still attended the wedding after all this. Helena could have handled it better, but TBF, finding out one of your best friends is engaged already for 9 months would hurt and make you think OP didn't trust her. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the stories, and if you like them, please leave a like and subscribe. Peace out.